Welcome back to Telecare's online training. Today we are in Unit 7 and the topic is loneliness. So once again, we will begin with sharing screen. And we are in Loneliness Part 1. So learning objectives for Unit 7 are that by the end of this section, you will have a basic understanding of how Telecare can help to alleviate loneliness, causes of loneliness, and how loneliness can affect mental and physical health. Loneliness. If we take the dictionary definition of loneliness, one would assume that as long as we live in any society, it should be relatively easy to avoid loneliness. Just go to where there are people. We all know that this is neither that simple nor that easy. We will each experience loneliness at times during our lives. This is a growing issue as technology makes it easier to communicate with one another. Research shows that digital connections, which mimic human connection, do not provide the same psychological benefits as face to face interaction. For some people, however, loneliness is more than a fleeting feeling. It can be a near steady state with long term consequences. Prolonged loneliness can cause lasting physical effects, including disrupted sleep patterns, restlessness, anxiety, and inability to concentrate. The Canadian psychologist Velo Sermat, working with hundreds of statements, interviews, and questionnaires concerning loneliness, estimated that between 10 and 30% of his sample group experienced pervasive feelings of loneliness. The condition of loneliness is more prevalent than depression, and it's important to note different from depression, though it can be harder to understand and less frequently talked about. Loneliness is a painful warning sign that a person's social relations are deficient in some important way. It is unlikely and perhaps even undesirable that loneliness be eliminated from the repertoire of common human experiences. What does seem imperative, however, is to prevent transient episodes of loneliness from evolving into a condition of severe and chronic loneliness. Scientific studies are beginning to document the harmful effects of persistent loneliness on mental health. Persistent loneliness can set the stage for depression, increase the risk of suicide, and in other ways jeopardize psychological well being. While an anonymous volunteer listener cannot hope to change the situations that bring upon loneliness, we can, in the moment, relieve the feelings of isolation, encourage healthy relationships, both internal and external, and help to avert the harmful mental health consequences of loneliness. It sometimes seems that our regular callers have no desire to talk about issues, are not in crisis, and really don't have that much to talk about. This is lonely. From the moment that we say, "Hello, Telecare," our callers should feel that there is someone that cares about them and is willing to listen, to feel, and to explore with them. We are here to stop the loneliness. Loneliness defined. There are many different definitions of loneliness. For our purposes, loneliness is the unpleasant experience that occurs when a person's network of social relationships is significantly deficient in either quality or quantity. This definition shares 3 points of agreement with the way most scholars view loneliness. 1. Loneliness results from a deficiency in a person's social relationships. Loneliness occurs when there is a mismatch between a person's actual social relations and the person's needs or desires for social contact. Sometimes loneliness results from a shift in an individual's social needs rather than from a change in their actual level of social contact. 2. Loneliness is a subjective experience. It is not synonymous with objective social isolation. People can be alone without being lonely or lonely in a crowd. 3. The experience of loneliness is aversive. Although loneliness may be a spur to personal growth, the experience itself can be unpleasant and distressing. Lonely, an adjective. Sad from being apart from other people, causing sad feelings that come from being apart from other people, not visited by many people. Solitude, a noun. A state or situation in which you are alone, usually because you want to be. Loneliness is one of the top issues facing many of our callers. Isolation can have a severe impact on a person's sense of well being, and using a distress line can be one way to help someone cope. The experience of isolation can be very different for each individual. These differences can be categorized into three areas. For example, some people are more vulnerable to feelings of loneliness and express it as very upsetting, while others may enjoy alone time. The influence of negative early experiences, such as childhood abuse or trauma, have been found to make it more difficult to regulate the intensity of feeling. And each person will differ in how safe they feel reaching out to others, dictating how easily or difficult it is to meet the need for connection. Over time, prolonged experiences of loneliness can cause one to lose faith in other people and result in seeing other people as a problem rather than a possible support. The snowballing effect of long term isolation can leave people feeling it's either too hard or too painful to risk making real personal connections. This, of course, only makes the loneliness worse. Each call is as unique as the person placing the call. One call may be someone's first time reaching out and taking a brave step in getting some help or relief. Another call may be from someone who's been struggling over a long period of time who needs a warm, encouraging voice to keep going. Some calls come from people who have called Telecare a number of times a day over a period of weeks, months, or years. For many of these regular callers, the support has become part of their routine. In many cases, these regular callers have experienced a history of trauma, some type of relationship abuse or neglect, and as a result, have developed a low expectation of the people around them. They often have a hard time trusting others or letting people get very close. Our aim is to make each call to our distress line a positive and encouraging experience. Using non judgmental support, we help our callers develop more confidence to reach out. Using a distress line can be a helpful start to break the pattern of worsening isolation and gain encouragement to reconnect with others. Keep loneliness at bay. Find someone to reach out to. Talking about your situation to a friend, family member, or therapist can make a huge difference. In sharing, we become less alone. When we are feeling bad about ourselves, it is more important than ever to hear that we are worthy, that we matter, and that someone cares. I'm glad you called. Don't isolate. When a person is feeling lonely, it is difficult to attempt to connect with other people. However, remaining isolated will make the feelings of loneliness stronger. Loneliness often stems from a negative self image. This can result in a reluctance to reach out and connect for fear of not being accepted. When one remains isolated, there is no one around to challenge their negative self image. I really enjoy speaking with you. I think that the jokes you like to tell are really funny. Keep busy. This may seem like an impossible task when a person is feeling isolated. However, joining a club or group where you can meet people who share your interests can help to extinguish the feelings of isolation. If you are engaged in an activity that you enjoy, chances are that it will bring out the best in you. If you feel good while engaging in that activity, it will help you to feel more connected to the people around you as you share something in common. You have been telling me about your artwork. It sounds like you really enjoy it. Did you know that there are beginner art classes at the library on Wednesdays? Be kind to yourself. If you are chronically lonely, you may have a fear of letting people get too close. The first and most important relationship to work on is your relationship with yourself. Often that means challenging thoughts that might have been learned as a child. If you are always criticized and or neglected, you may see yourself as unworthy. Be kind to yourself, treat yourself well, even when you are not feeling good about yourself. I'm hearing that you just don't feel like getting out of bed, but you feel bad for feeling this way. What could you be doing that could make you feel more positive? Sometimes I enjoy sleeping late too. Would you be able to give yourself permission to enjoy sleeping late if you planned an activity for later in the day? Get educated. The more that you learn about loneliness and how prevalent it is in society, the less alone you will feel. We hear from many people who are feeling lonely. It is okay to call us anytime, even if you are lonely. That is why Telecare is here. It is important to remember that by making the call, our callers have recognized their loneliness and are reaching out. This is the time for us to let them know that we do care, that they are important, and to gently encourage and suggest further steps to alleviate their loneliness. And that completes part one. Seniors and loneliness. In previous years, we've offered a reassurance call program, and perhaps in the future, we'll be able to pick this up again as we increase our volunteer base. However, you should have resources in your volunteer manual that have reassurance call programs that are still active in the county of Simcoe, as well as beyond to Canada wide call programs. That being said, we can still provide some benefits to encouraging callers with pervasive loneliness to register for another reassurance call programs. So, some benefits of encouraging someone to sign up for a reassurance call program are providing the opportunities to make connections, share stories, relieve loneliness, and to provide peace of mind, not just for the individual, but for their family as well. When addressing the issues of loneliness, it is important to identify the varying needs and issues of our senior population. Recognizing that acute, prolonged loneliness can have a profound effect on someone's health. Seniors are encouraged to register for a program to receive an incoming phone call from a volunteer on a regular basis. Often these programs are free of charge and completely self-directed. Participants can choose the times and the days that they would like a call and provide guidelines around contacting emergency contacts or services if a scheduled call remains unanswered. Regular telephone contact can increase feelings of security and show that people care. It can give a senior someone to connect to and air out their issues or problems. It provides a person to person link when the senior might not feel physically, emotionally, socially, or financially safe to have visitors. Loneliness and isolation. As we age, many changes take place in our lives, some chosen and some are imposed. Each change can lead to isolation and loneliness. The choice to move to a retirement residence or downsize a home can mean leaving old friends, neighborhoods, and activities for a new community. Retirement can mean that many of the social outlets we enjoyed in our workplace and with our coworkers are no longer available to us. Physical pain and loss of mobility can make it harder for some older adults to get out and enjoy activities and companionship. Inability to drive or living in a rural area can make it difficult to socialize. Even the seasons have a large impact. Fear of snowy and icy weather can cause a person to feel isolated and lonely. Loss of a spouse is not only cause for bereavement and loneliness. However, the remaining spouse may face lowered income levels and change in social status. As we age and lose more of our close friends, we may begin to be afraid and to make connections among our peer group for fear of further and may of as we age and lose more of our close friends, we may begin to be afraid to make connections for fear of further suffering and loss. Some advice from seniors. So, some factors such as death of a spouse, loss of mobility, being a caregiver, death of friends and family members, change in living arrangements, lowered income levels, inability to drive, loss of health, retirement, and ageism can all contribute to feelings of loneliness and isolation. Start with the small things. The quickest way to make a friend is to smile, and it doesn't cost a thing. Say hi. Go out of your way to say hello to people in your apartment building, grocery store, etc., particularly if you know their name. Reach out to others. Recognize that others may be feeling even more awkward or alone than you. Take the initiative to speak with a neighbor, invite an acquaintance for a walk or coffee. Encourage your lonely friend or neighbor, but don't push. Understand that it takes a lot of energy and courage for a lonely person to reach out. Have patience. Be a friend. People who show an interest in others and who are kind and friendly make good friends. Take a chance. Developing new relationships can make life worthwhile at any age. Help someone else. People often feel better when they help others. Avoid judgment. Depression, alcohol, or substance use issues are more common among seniors than people realize. The problems develop for many reasons and could be made worse because of loneliness. Make use of what is available. Join the excursion to the mall, even though you don't need anything. Keep connected. Even after a spouse has passed, continue to invite your friends over to activities and events that they were involved with as a couple. And take the extra step. Don't just encourage your neighbor to join in the seniors' dinner, invite them to sit with you and introduce them to your friends. Here are some resources for further reading. All right. And so that completes Unit 7. If you're following along on another device, you can continue to the self evaluation. Otherwise, that completes the content for today, and we'll see you next time for Unit 8.